Honk. I'm glad. I'm so glad. I didn't want to mention it because I love seeing if the person like reacts to it or not. But I'm very glad you noticed that, Frank. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My special guest today is costume designer Frank Helmer, who worked on all seasons of Cobra Kai. He's also worked on some of my personal favorite films, especially one, Herbie Fully Loaded, when I was growing up. Is seriously one of my favorites. So, Frank, I'm so happy to have you on.
I'm happy to be here. I'm glad to be talking about this. I mean, I'm a big fan of the show as everybody else, so it's great to talk about it.
For sure. You've been a part of the show in a really cool way. I mean, it's obviously got to be fun to be an actor, to play a character in the show, but on your end, you oversee the costumes, the designing, all the work that goes into that. I've always been intrigued by it. Spoke to Rachel Guilfoyle Vaughan not long ago, and I was just saying about how much I appreciate the work you guys put into the show. And just as a costume designer, it's a very intricate thing, and just you know the level of observation that goes into what you're doing is very admirable. I mean, the little details you put, and like the tournament geese, for example, every little patch, every little design you make with that, it's just really fun. So yeah, thank you for all the work you do in the show. It's great.
Thanks, it's great. I mean, I love creating the characters, so that's part of what I do is a big joy of my job is to like help bring these characters to life. You know, the actors bring a ton of it too, but it's like I'm all about enhancing and creating more of that character through the clothes, because it's a visual shorthand. It's a way to like, you know, telegraph what it's about. You know, you talk about the details in the gis. You know, there's things that I want to add that are subtleties, and things that I want to add that just really help sell the character right away.
Yeah, like speaking of subtleties and like, you know, enhancing the character, I love that because people sometimes don't realize the effort that goes into the costumes and how that reflects the character. It's not just, oh, that's what they like. It's actually who they are. It speaks a lot of volumes to, you know, as you as the viewer. Like, I love the details with seeing, you know, the Miyagi-Dos. They're wearing all blue, all that kind of lightly toned colors, and then very calm colors, and then you have someone like Sam who's kind of embracing Eagle Fang while she's in Miyagi-Do, and she's kind of got her own kind of style. I mean, with like characters, I'm guessing you work with like a description, but each season, how do you try and sort of evolve the character's style as they like evolve as a character?
I mean, it's all based on the story. It's all based on the script and where they're going. As using Sam as a good example, when she's inherently Miyagi because she's a LaRusso, but when she's flirting with Eagle Fang and Cobra Kai and getting in there, I purposefully blended her colors between the cool blue tones and the reds and the blacks, so she ended up being pretty purple in a lot of ways. So there's a lot of things that I could do in that respect that just sort of like give a little bit of a clue to the viewers that she's kind of in between these two states, and that's something that just can help like enhance where she's at emotionally, and it helps bring the whole thing together with that, and it really just comes from the script. I have to follow where the story is going, and that's where I get to that's where my creativity and my fun comes in, is like, how can I interpret these words, or how can I interpret this setting to like enhance all this,
right? And it certainly has that effect, because from someone like myself who I love the little details, I love to observe what's going on in the show. I mean, I love what Cobra Kai do. It's really fun to see like the different sense of styles and just how that reflects the character and what the journey they're going through. Like you said, blending in Sam's Miyagi, but then like flirting with Eagle Fang. I like the way you put that. It's fun to see that. But costume designing, what made you decide to go into costume designing, and what was it that you enjoyed the most about it to follow it as like a profession?
I initially started out in fashion design and don't really love that. My creativity, I work really well with a story, with a character, with a script. I can do that forever. You give me the character of you, I can design clothes for you forever, as long as I have the story. In fashion, trying to create these looks out of thin air. My creativity doesn't work as well that way. But give me a story and I can just go off. And it's just the way it works for me. I've always been a big fan of film and television. I started out, I got into the industry by volunteering at the Seattle International Film Festival. I would just like go there and I'd meet people and I get to see all the movies. And you know, I moved to Los Angeles and just started doing everything I could in the industry. Like I worked for free. I PA'd. I've done in the costume department. I've done every job. And you know, found my way as I was working my way to where I could express myself fully. And it was it speaks to me. Film and television is a hard business. You know, there's a lot of most people see the end product and the glamour and the fun of all that, which is there, but it's long, hard days. We work really hard. We're all very hardworking professionals at it all. And it's not for everybody, but when it's your thing and you love it. And I love it. You know, even when I'm in the middle of the night, it's been a 14-hour day and I've done 300 fittings, it feels like, and it's grueling, but it's also like so satisfying when I'm up. You see it when you're on set. We'll be behind the monitors. You know, there's these monitors where we see what the camera is seeing as it's happening, right? So you'll have like the actors are on set, they're doing their thing, and we're all huddled behind the monitors. The director, the producers, the writers, hair, makeup, wardrobe, we're all there looking at the thing, and it just snaps, and it's right. Suddenly you see that, and you're like, it all worked. All the clothes went together. All the set dressing work, the production design work, the hair and makeup are on point, and it's so satisfying. And then you have to go back into the fitting room for another 300 fittings.
It makes it worth it if when you do see that moment, you're like, it just works. It's exactly how I want it. And like, yeah, it fits the character, it fits the story, and it just syncs. But when did you first find out you're going to be involved in Cobra Kai? Because being a part of the show from day one must feel quite nice to see where it's come now.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, when we started out, it was a little YouTube show, right? I got introduced to John, Hayden, and Josh through producers I've worked with in the past. And they called me up and said like, hey, so we're doing this sort of like Karate Kid reboot thing with Ralph Macchio and Billy Zabka. Like, do you want to meet on it? I'm like, are you kidding me? Yes, of course I want to meet on it. Like, I grew up on that movie. You know, these are like heroes to me. Like, it's so a big part of my childhood.
Right.
And so I met with them, and it just all resonated, right? Because we're all fans in the heart, right? And they're super fans. They know everything. They know more than actually I think Ralph and Billy know. And it's just to get to be part of it. I've always said this show's a kind of a magical unicorn in a lot of ways because everyone is great. I mean, it comes from the top on down. Our showrunners, John, Josh, and Hayden, like they set the tone. All of our writers are amazing. All of our cast and crew are amazing. Like it's I want to do the show for 100 years. I would do it for as long as possible because it's just so great. And to get to be part of this thing that is to breathe, to have new life and new stories into the canon of what the show is and what it means so much to a lot of people. And we have a lot of heart with it, right? Because we it's awesome to be part of that and get to create new levels of things that will go down in history with it.
Right, yeah, because with this show, like a lot of people, when they first discovered it on YouTube, like myself, I was kind of like, okay, I love the Karate Kid, but like, I wonder what they're doing here, especially because it's sort of it's a continuation. It's very different from what we've seen of other 80s franchises where they've either ruined and just remade it and forgotten what made it great, right? But like these guys, like you said, you know, the heart is at the end of the day, it's being a fan of the show, which what makes this show so great, and hence why the creators and you guys have done so well because you have so much passion for it. And you know, did you think this would really kick off? You know, being a small YouTube show, like especially seeing how season 1 went, did you think it would ever kick off the way it has now?
We always knew we had something special. When season 1 came out, we knew it when we were shooting it, and when it came out, it was even far better than I expected. And just the popularity that it had on YouTube was great. But we never knew that it would get this big. You know, we thought that we would be in our lane and we'd be great for the platform. But then when we went to Netflix and it became this global sensation, we were all just blown away because it's just validating of what we knew. You know, we knew that we had this little thing, and we knew it was great, but we didn't know that it was going to resonate across the world, right? That's what's really astounding to me, is like, I get DMs from Argentina and from Brazil and from, from Europe and Asia. And it's like, it's just incredible that it just speaks to everybody in the same way, and I'm just happy that everyone gets to see what we saw from the beginning.
Right. Yeah. Like you were saying about the influence that, I mean, me as a British person, seeing the show impacting someone in the UK and just seeing a fandom here is really cool. Just, it is so global. And like you said, Europe, the DMs you're getting, it must feel quite fulfilling to see that a show has touched people in a way that maybe other 80s franchises haven't. Because, like I said, a lot of them have got ruined, or they just don't have the passion that like Cobra Kai has. So yeah, this definitely is something really special. So with Cobra Kai, what do you think makes it different from other productions or films that you've worked with?
I mean, I think the key with this one is that we don't coast on the nostalgia, right? There's of course there's nostalgia. We have a great soundtrack and have a lot of throwbacks and costumes and set design and even when I do our, we had 80s music video flashbacks and that kind of thing. It's so fun to do, but we don't. That's not the basis of our show. Our basis of the show is about these families, is about rivalry, is about like human beings, about how, it's universal subjects that we're all part of. I mean, we can remember the rivalries that we might have had in high school, and it's going on, 30 years later, 40 years later, but then you see that reflected in our younger cast members, right? Because and those characters are having their new variations on these same things. So there's universal struggles that we're looking at and playing with. So it's not just like let's trot out some cool fashion or like these these heartthrobs from the 80s. It's like we trot them out, but give them a story. It's like when we bring back our legacy characters too, it's sort of like we're bringing them back for a reason, and they're like there's a reason for this. It's just guided by the story, so there's a reason why they're back, not just for the stunt. That's the thing. That's what I think. That's the heart of it, really.
Yeah, I like how Cobra Kai is so much its own thing as well as being part of the Karate Kid. Like you see all these new characters, you grow to love them. Sam Miguel, for example, and how it has a lot of nostalgia, but yeah, it isn't made for nostalgia. It really has its own purpose, and each season you see how things unfold, and yeah, the Johnny Daniel beef still kind of being there, and just how people like Silver returning, and just how that affects things. It's really, really amazing to see. But within season 4,
it's also multidimensional too. Just a real quick note on that. It's like we get to see Johnny in a different light. He's in the original movies, he's a classic bad guy, right? And Ralph is a classic good guy, right? So we get to see different aspects of it. There's no one story, and that's what is really fun about the multidimensionality of it all, because none of us are all, I mean, we all think we're good guys, I hope, right? But sometimes we are inadvertently bad guys, or perceived that way, or we think we're being bad guys, we're actually being honest and good. We're like, I just love that multidimensionality to it, because it isn't flat.
Right, like it's not like black and white, right? It's got, you don't think of someone as one specific, oh yeah, they're a clear villain. It's like you get perspective, even like Kreese, like, oh, he was the sensei of the bully of Daniel LaRusso in the Karate Kid, but now it's like he's an army vet with PTSD. He's had issues in his life that led to why he is the person he is, and why he thinks in his mindset he's right to do the things he does with Cobra Kai. And yeah, I love that, because it makes you think of the world in a different way, right? You don't think of someone as, oh yeah, that person. Oh, like you said, you kind of start to think of your own. Maybe if you had a bully in school, or what were they going through? Why were they like that? That's what I love about the writing. Again, it really makes you think about what the hell is going on in your own life, like in terms of your relationships and such. But yeah, how would you say the show's kind of affected your perspective of things, especially like connections with people?
Well, I think in a lot of ways it's there's that cliche, I guess, a kind of a cliche saying or a meme saying of like, you know, everyone's having their own day within all that stuff, and it kind of gives you that, it gives me that perspective of like, you get to see like, you know, the backstory of Kreese, why he is how he is, and he's still kind of a little bit evil, or his teachings are not, you know, the most balanced, if you will.
Right.
To pull a Miyagi-Do thought out of it, but they're not for nothing. He's not pure evil, right? So it's like seeing that perspective of somebody else that is, you know, like you said, like someone. Why is the bully of the bully? You know, if they're still a bully and they're still maybe still treating you badly, and they may still be like causing harm, but you know, sometimes when I'm driving down the road, I'm not always the best driver because I might be having a bad day or I'm a little bit sleepy. Like it gives me a little bit more patience when I see someone like, you know, who cuts me off or whatever. It's like, okay, I've had a bad day. I've been a bad driver. So like, maybe I can not scream at them too much, you know, or like, too angry. It's like, all right, fine. Get a little Miyagi center on that.
Yeah. Don't be all Cobra Kai and immersive.
Don't want to go Cobra Kai on the freeways here. That's for sure.
Speaking of Miyagi-Do and Cobra Kai, I love to ask cast members and crew on the show about this. Which dojo do you definitely see yourself in? If let's say these dojos were real dojos and you wanted to take up karate, like where's Frank going?
I mean, I think I would be most like Sam LaRusso in that I would be torn between Miyagi-Do and Eagle Fang. I don't know. I think Cobra Kai, even though I kind of want to be Cobra Kai, it's not personality wise. I think that I think I'd get a little bit too bored with Miyagi-Do. I think Eagle Fang is a little too like chaotic.
Yeah,
he's like chaotic neutral, like, you know, chaotic evil.
Yeah.
But to somewhere in between the two of those is that sweet spot. I think that's what Sam is really finding in it as well. Like she's able to draw from both of those things and get strength from both of them. And I think that's really the lesson that the overreaching lesson of the whole show. And as we get to explore through the three dojos is that like there isn't just one path, right? There's multiple paths, and sometimes they converge and sometimes they disperse, but like there's not, all those paths are valid, you know, even Cobra Kai.
Right. That's what I love about how they go about these things. It's always is interesting to see how you see yourself in taking a bit of like Cobra Kai's principle of striking first, but then having a bit more calm of Miyagi-Do, and then there's someone like Johnny in Eagle Fang. It's just like you said, chaotic. It's like a funny version of karate, you could say. Speaking of karate and just the tournament, I want to definitely speak to you about the gis, because that's something I really admired. I remember you posted a Instagram story of a little snippet of the touch on the Miyagi-Do gis. I absolutely loved what you did with Daniel, with paying tribute to like that Miyagi headband that Miyagi gave to Daniel, and having that logo on the gi. I mean, I saw the story when you're peeling it off. It definitely was satisfying to see. And it really intrigued me. Like, how long did it take to come up with that idea and to make sure it actually fit with the gis without kind of it being too much, you know?
That's really the trick. Because I mean, in the Cobra Kai universe, or the Karate Kid universe, there are really only two of the headbands, right? Daniel has one that Mr. Miyagi gave him, and Miguel has one that Daniel gave to him, that he ostensibly brought back from Okinawa when he was there. And I love that. So, but I also wanted to like keep Mr. Miyagi relevant and present in that whole thing, because it is the root of it all, right? Like you could say that Eagle Fang, the root of Eagle Fang is Johnny, and the root of Cobra Kai is Kreese and Silver. But the root of Miyagi-Do, it's there in the name, but there also needs to be that visual representation of it, because, you know, Pat Morita is no longer with us and doesn't get to be on the show except in, you know, some certain images like flashbacks and photos. I really wanted to have his presence be there. So I was racking my brain. Like I got these cool new like traditional Japanese kimono, heavyweight, very proper things. How can I bring some of this into our world, right? And it just finally dawned on me, like, the headband has to be there, but I can't give everybody a headband. That would be a little ridiculous, right? And also, like, I mean, in the story, in the reality of our universe, there's only two that exist anyway. So how I couldn't like I couldn't imagine that Daniel went on to Amazon and like ordered in, a whole bunch of these headbands for the show. But no. So I thought, like, okay, this is something that he would do, that Daniel LaRusso would do. He'd want to honor Mr. Miyagi that way. So I felt, and I saw that on a lot of competition gis, that there are specific places where patches are allowed in competitions, and that is one of the few places where a patch goes. So I thought it's a perfect place. It's a subtle nod, but it's there on everybody, and that just was like made me very happy to figure that out, and how I could bring that.
Right, and it was so nice, and I definitely noticed it when obviously seeing that story you posted, but just like I love the design of the gis as well, like the Miyagi-Do logo on the back, so vibrant. It's really fresh. I love it. And yeah, it is definitely the best place to put it. It's not in your face. It's not too much out there. And like, I like the realism from what you said. Is like, where would you have it? Based on where you're allowed to put it.
And there's also a little bit of symbolism too, that it's a very subtle thing that not most people get. But there's the rising sun behind the bonsai tree in the thing, and like all the symbology there is there for a reason, or there's aspects to that. So I like the rising sun is within, like the sun is coming from within, it's behind, it's supporting the bonsai, which is like the heart of the growth and how you train yourself. And so on the inside collar of all the gis, I put the same orange.
Is it orange? Yeah.
It is orange. Yeah. So I put that on the inside of the collar, so that was like a visual reminder or a metaphorical or symbolic reminder of like that's coming from within. It's not just on your back as a patch, but like that color is coming from within. It's geeky costume stuff we do, quite honestly.
I love it.
It's just, there's a lot of things that are done on purpose that are just, that we do as costume designers do because we're dorky about it, or we just love it. that it doesn't, it's one of the thrilling things I get to do. It's sort of like in the past on other movies, I've done things like that no one will ever see, but the character knows, right? So I've done things where if we make a coat for her, sometimes I'll do the lining of the coat will be the same lining as the inside of the purse or something like that. So I'll reflect that in different things. So that it's not something that if it suits the character, it's a thing that just adds a level. So the actor is seeing that and go like, oh, that is so cool. The lining matches my purse lining. Like that is so something she would do, and that just helps elevate the character. Because, and I've said this before, it's like, if I'm not making the actor feel like the character, then I'm not doing my job right.
Right. That's deep as well when you think about that. I love the fact, because when I saw Eli with the Miyagi-Do gi, there was moments where you could see the inside of his gi, and I was like, that's definitely not white. And that intrigued me why it was orange. And I know you said your favorite color is orange, so that's another cool little detail. But I mean, obviously it's because of, like you said, how the sun rising and the growth aspect. I love that. I don't know, did you guys specifically, I mean, obviously that's more so of just showing Eli in the gi and seeing the orange, but did you guys make sure you could deliberately see the orange, to kind of reflect what you're saying with the growth, especially seeing Eli's growth in the tournament, because he really does get more confident as each fight he's progressing in?
I mean, honestly, it didn't matter to me if it was displayed or not, because of the fact that it was there. It was really a character thing. It was
just to embrace it for the actor.
Yeah, exactly. That we get to see it. That and obviously, I tell the writers and the showrunners know all these. They know why I'm doing these things, and so a lot of times they will write things in specifically to highlight something like that. So, and I don't know if they did that specifically to highlight the orange inside of there, but it is just, again, it's another layer of that you're thinking about. You're like, oh, what does that mean? Why Eli's growth? Like, what is this? Is there something in that? And in this case, there is. Sometimes there's a happy accident where there isn't, but in this case, yeah, it clearly is. And I don't know if they wrote that in there specifically. I think Jacob really just wanted to fight shirtless. Yeah. But it also is very authentic. It's very true to the character as well.
Right. I love the new gis we got to see with Eagle Fang, because obviously with Cobra Kai and Miyagi-Do, we're familiar with the designs, but seeing the new designs were great. I loved it. But just seeing a new dojo like Eagle Fang and seeing what they would have, the black stripe and the nice little the patch as well, designing that, because obviously that was something you kind of pretty much had to do without sort of maybe any inspiration like you would have with Cobra Kai Miyagi do, because they obviously had previous gi. So what was the process like making a new gi idea from scratch?
Well, it's back to the headbands again. I mean, they're the two iconic headbands of the two iconic characters, right? So I have Mr. Miyagi's on the gi. Like I was saying, how can I get Johnny's headband or on that? Because that's so part of his power. That's his whole. It's his whole move. It's his signature look, right? So I thought, oh, okay, the headband. I'll put it on the collar. I'll put it on the outside or around there. So that's where the headband. Because I'm not going to give all the guys headbands. They're going to look. It's like it's not the '80s. No one wears them really, except our two guys. So it's like it would be dumb to try to give them all to them, you know. Even though when we had the Coyote Creek battle, you know, they were battling for the headbands, and the red was that season 2, I think. But basically it was really the headband is what led that, and that just, you know, because it stops at the back of the neck and comes all the way down there, because it isn't like wrapping the whole body. It is just like as if the headband had fallen down and wrapped around the one side. And that was the inspiration for it. And also putting the names on the sleeve, which they'll have like I pulled out the beak of the eagle fang and put the names inside of there, because that's so what Johnny Lawrence would do. I mean, all the Cobra Kai there, but you know, Johnny Lawrence designed these. So he said like, oh yeah, this is badass. I'm going to do like my headband on here. I've got to have our name on the shoulder this time. It's like, it's just, I'm getting into his head of what he would go like, that's badass. Right. And even subtle things too, like, you know, Eagle Fang is not a wealthy dojo. Johnny doesn't got a lot of money. Right. Daniel does. So like the Miyagi-Do logos are embroidered, but like the Eagle Fangs are silk screened, because he would like embroider is much more expensive than silk screening. So it's like that's also keeping that you know, in line with, you know, I wanted to embroider it, but it didn't make as much sense for that dojo. So it had to like all, you know, we could do some movie magic, but it's like I wanted to keep it like on par with where he is as a person and what would that dojo might actually do.
Right. I love this. I love the little detailing, because a lot of fans don't see these little things and understand it. But the fact you said like, yeah, like that's something that comes into play, like, again, very deep when you go into it, like Daniel's riches with his gi design it affects that. And same with Johnny's, like, obviously he doesn't have all the money in the world, and he has to kind of settle for what he would. And like you said, what would be badass? What would be Johnny Lawrence, but not like too much, not like nerd shit, as you would say.
I mean, that goes through like all the things too. Is sort of like every season we try to do 2 or 3 band shirts for Johnny Lawrence, and the choices are very specific. The choices are very like, and I source out like original vintage shirts whenever I can, so that they are like, in my mind, he only has these shirts from shows he went to in the 80s and early 90s, right? So they have to be bands that toured through Southern California. I try to get the real authentic vintage tees from those tours, so they're real.
Wow.
But then also like sometimes I'll bring in a bunch of tees, and Billy and I will sit in this thing and go, okay, is it this one? Is this a good one? Is that a good one? Unless you're Alice Cooper, maybe not. Metallica, obviously, you know, there was one band that we had. I'm going to name drop because it's fun. Dave Navarro is a big fan of the show. And he was in, you know, Red Hot Chili Peppers, but also in this band called Jane's Addiction, which is one of my favorite bands from back in the day. And it hit all the things. It hit like they were from Southern California. They toured there. They were active in the late 80s, early 90s. And theoretically, Johnny Lawrence might have gone to that concert. But Billy and I were sitting there, and the thing is, you know, I just think Jane's Addiction is too cool. It's too cool for Johnny Lawrence to wear. It's great for us. I'd wear it. Billy would wear it. But it's like, and even though the shirt looked great on him, we put it on. It didn't feel right. So we're in the fitting room, and it's like, you know, we love Dave. And if you're watching this, thanks for sending the shirt to us, because he sent it to us. It was really awesome to get that. It was a vintage one that he had, and it was just not right for the character, even though it hit all the points, and it didn't feel right. So we had to sadly reject the Jane's Addiction t-shirt and go for Ozzy.
Right. That's actually really cool though. Thanks for sharing that. Because I've always noticed, like, yeah, Johnny's got all these different band shirts, and I'm kind of curious if there's any that haven't like made it, you know. So kind of picking and choosing. Has there ever been a specific like outfit you created or like kind of stylized for a character, and then you kind of had a U-turn, like, actually, you know what, I want to completely change it? Has that like ever happened to you?
I mean, yeah. I mean, on this show, not as much. I mean, it never really like makes it to the camera. You know, we usually solve all those moments in the fitting room. Oh, there's definitely been times where like I pick something, this is the perfect outfit, blah blah blah, and then when they start to slot it into where it goes on the show, which scene it goes into, it just isn't quite right. And even though it's like, and like, here's a good example. So like, I mentioned this on a different interview, but there was a jacket that Johnny Lawrence wore when he first is training the Eagle Fangs in the park, and this red is very iconic. It's a red jacket with a white, baseball collar to it, and it kind of harkens back to the red jacket he wore in the original movie. And that jacket I found like in season 1. Like before, and I said, I need to have that jacket. It's the perfect jacket. I don't know where it's going to go, but I'm going to buy it. I'm going to have it here. And it sat in his closet in my costume department for 3 seasons. It's like, it's until we found the perfect place for it. And it's like, and I had brought it in. I had it in like at least a dozen fittings over the years. And it was just like, it's cool, but it's not quite right for this. It's cool, but it's not quite right for this. Like, why can't we use this jacket? And I just had to wait for it. I just had to wait by my time until it showed up. And that kind of thing happens more often than not, because I tend to trust my instincts to, if I see something that even though it's not perfect for that particular episode or might not be perfect for that particular season, I'll get it and just stick it in there and just wait, because I know it'll find its home.
Right. So like there's a little bit of patience that definitely comes into play with certain things. So that's really cool that you were probably like, yes, I'm finally using it when you actually was.
It literally was. I really, really was. I was like, finally. I also I think I bought 4 of them because I didn't know if it was going to be a scene. Like, the worst thing in the world is when I get something that's the perfect outfit, but I don't have multiples of it, because we have stunt doubles. We have like, things. Sometimes there's wire rigging. Sometimes there's a lot of time there's everybody's getting in the water all the time in this stupid show. Drives me crazy. But I also
that must be annoying.
it's just like when I've got. It's just one of those things. Again, the things that go into costume design that people don't really know. Like if you got an actor and he's gonna like say they're gonna like try to catch koi in the pond, right? Let's say you've got 15 actors that are trying to catch koi in the pond. Each of them are going to have a stunt double. Each of them are going to have to get in and out and be dry all the time. So it's like it's when you have a situation like that, I have like 8 or more exact copies of that same outfit. So I have to have 8 t-shirts, 8 pairs of shoes, 8 pairs of pants, 8 pairs of everything. And it's like, it's a lot. So like whenever I see something that seems special, it's like, I'm buying 4 of them. I'm not leaving one. I'm not leaving one on the rack.
Right. Yeah. There's got to be times, I was asking Rachel about this as well. Like because speaking of stunts, wire rigging, any of that kind of stuff, there must have been a time where like maybe something got ripped or something got not necessarily wet, like with those scenes it was obviously necessary because it was for the story. But yeah, has there ever been a time where something ripped and you're just like, oh, not this, like you've got like less copies of it maybe perhaps?
Well, I mean, this kind of thing happens not all that often, but often enough to be we're always prepared for.
Right.
In the big battle between Daniel and Johnny, where they're on the sparring deck, it's a very athletic thing, right? It's a great scene. I mean, it's so fun. It's done so perfectly well. And like our guys do a lot of their own stunts, right? Like when Billy's throwing kicks, Billy's doing all this stuff. Ralph is throwing punches. He's doing his kata. They're all very skilled at all this. Even though Johnny Lawrence pants are classic karate pants, he was getting so athletic with it and kicking so high, he kept blowing out his crotch. And it's like, like in the middle, like like the first time it happened was in rehearsal, and then and we're panicking. So we have like 3 of them, right? We've got our stunt double, a couple of extras just for safety, right? And so we said, okay, no problem. We'll throw it on him while I run it to my tailor. We're shooting at night, right? So it's a little cold out. So we're like, Billy's taking his pants off on set, throwing the new ones on, and then we run him into my tailor shop, and she's sewing and patching him, getting him done, and then we run him back out there, and he rips them again,
my god!
Like, what are you doing? What are you doing to me? He was just being very athletic with them, and it was like, but that's a situation where we're always prepared for anything like that, or a spill. Like sometimes an actor might spill something on their costume at lunch, or or inadvertent. Like Jacob, he plays hockey. he's the biggest culprit, honestly. We have to keep it very sharp. Always like, Jacob, take your shirt off, please. Jake, tough. Yeah.
I love that, because I remember Curtis Bonds, Baker, he was saying about Jacob how he would move a lot when he's trying to get like some of the images, you know, like still for printed photography, and it just makes me laugh. Jacob is a culprit of the costume stuff now. He's a real menace.
He's great. I mean, we all love him. He's just got a lot of energy, and he's so fun and always goofy. I mean, when we take continuity photos of all the actors when they're in their outfits, and he and Courtney actually are the most expressive in their poses. You know, always doing something really silly. It's fun.
Yeah, it must be fun working with all these cast members and obviously getting to know them, because you really like get to obviously give them these costumes and show them why it's important for the character, and obviously they understand the character being it. What's it like working closely with these actors, especially when you first got to meet, you know, Ralph and Billy, and obviously when the producers said to you about like they're going to bring this show or this, you know, franchise back and then bringing those guys back? How did it feel when you get to work with these guys?
You know, it's funny. My first fitting with both of them in the first season was one of those. These moments don't happen all that often, but I was such a fan. There's such a big part of my youth that I had this. I mean, okay, so the first time, I think it was the first fitting was with Billy, right? And so I enter my fitting room, got all my stuff lined up, and I'm a little nervous. It's the first fitting of this major character for this new show. And then Johnny Lawrence walks in, and I'm like, "Hi, cool. Hey, nice to meet you and stuff. You know, it's great. Well, I'm just professional costume designer Frank Helmer. Nice to meet you, Johnny Lawrence. I mean, Billy's up." It was like I was a little flustered, like, because I was like so excited. And then, you know, after a few minutes of that, then you're an actor and you're a human, and we're talking about the character, and it just gets the flow. And now it's so easy with these guys, because we know there's such a level of trust, you know. And the same thing was happening with Ralph when he walked in. It's like, hey, Frank, come on, stop being so stumbling over your words. But it's fun, because then, you know, once you get past that, then they're just like, you know, we're just coworkers, right? And it's like boom, boom, boom. Let's get the work done.
Yeah, right. You just like kind of you get so used to it. It's just like all professional whenever you get to see them. Yeah. In the show, like there's obviously so many different styles, so many different characters. Which, if you could like narrow it down to one character in particular that kind of has your sense of style, is there anybody in particular?
It's Johnny Lawrence. I mean, would be the closest to, like, you know, I mean, I live in Southern California. It's like I like to wear Vans, and I like to wear jeans and t-shirts, and my style is very simple that way. I like a hoodie, I like a plaid shirt. Like I'm not quite as colorful as I wear a lot of black. But I mean, he would be the closest to my personal style. And if I was younger, it'd be Miguel.
Right, yeah, those guys have some awesome style, and I do like there's moments where like Johnny's style does influence Miguel's in the show. I think season 1 or 2, especially when he asked for the coat for that that scene with Miguel, Tori, Sam, and Robbie.
I'm glad you thought there was a specific. I did that on purpose, right? There was a whole point of him, like, you know, trying to dress like who you are, who is influencing you at the moment. I'm glad you caught that.
It's kind of like a passing of the torch, if you like the way he was giving him the coat, and he was sort of embracing that. And obviously, being in Cobra Kai, like it fits him, but it's also a badass jacket. That's very Johnny-like. So it was nice to see him having that moment with Miguel. But like, yeah, I mean, all these little details, it's really fun to figure things like that. And like within the show, is there like anyone you'd say, I mean, obviously every character's like sense of style and they're growing throughout the show, but would you say there's like been a big change with any specific characters within their style?
I mean, Eli turning into Hawk is the most obvious of that, and to a degree Dimitri as well. He's over the seasons he's grown more confident, but also in his confidence, it's sort of like he just almost doubles down on his dorkiness, as opposed to wearing these things is sort of like a little bit embarrassed about it. Now he's like, bring on the stupid t-shirt. I mean, really saying, bring on the stripes and the patterns, the stripes and plaids together, like bring on the goofy socks. That's a detail that is rarely seen for Dimitri, but every outfit he has some really stupid sock on, like a pug eating a piece of pizza, or like a space ice cream cone, or like it's just he's that dumb sock guy, and we rarely see it. But like the Pac-Man tux that he wore to
that was so cool.
It's like that's so him, but he's also wearing it so proudly. Where like I feel like in season 1, if had gone to a prom, he would have been too afraid to wear that. He wouldn't have been able to have the confidence that karate had brought to him. From being in Miyagi-Do to actually be, I'm a dork, I'm proud of this, right? And and Hawk did the same thing too. He went from like a dressing dorky, whatever, and as he got more confident and more stronger with himself, he started wearing a lot of black. He only wore Cobra Kai colors when he wasn't, in the gis. And then as the season has progressed and as he's changed from the different dojos, his clothes reflected that too. So he did, like in season 4, he's wearing less black. He's wearing more colors that reflect the color of his mohawk or things like that. And that's a fun thing to do. Those two have the I mean, I feel like Hawk has the biggest visual transformation, whereas Dimitri has the biggest internal transformation, even though his aesthetic is kind of the same.
Right, like you said, because like Dimitri's just kind of doubling down on who he already is, and now he's just been elevated with the confidence he now has. So he's kind of going into a territory where the style is still familiar to him, but it's like just expressing that I'm confident in who I am, and I like that. And yeah, with Hawk,
does, I mean, karate gives you that confidence. It's like when it's more than just martial arts. I mean, the martial arts it's all dovetailed together, where it just the confidence, the security to be yourself, and to defend yourself, to know that all. I think that's an important part of what this show does too.
Right, like because these characters, obviously they're in certain dojos as well. You can that be quite a fun challenge to? Obviously, you want to express the style a little bit differently as they're growing, but they're still kind of with, like Dimitri still with Miyagi-Do. So do you feel like it's working with that can be quite fun as a challenge?
Oh, absolutely. And I've got all of I do the same treatment with all the characters, even the background characters, the ones that we have a core group of really great like BG actors that are in all the dojos, and I get to do the same treatment with them. They get the same eye of like, okay, you guys wear these same colors as everybody else, and you bring in some personality. This one of our guys, Xander, he brings in this necklace that he always wears. That's his iconic necklace for that, and I love these little details because it is bringing some personality to that. We amp up the look a little bit. I work really hard to like have it look like Southern California as much as possible. And the style that's here, it's in the Valley. It's very specific because like the style in the Valley is slightly different than how it is in like say Silver Lake or Echo Park.
Right.
But there's also, I throw some of that stuff in there too. I get to throw in different characters in group scenes, and because I look at all the extras too, that they're not ignored, because that's how I get to really layer in some depth of the Southern California-ness there. There was like one, and I'm always dressing these guys, and you never know if they're going to make it on camera, or you never if they're just going to be a swipe, or if they're going to like be registered. There was a scene in season 4 where like this one kid I put him in like this lavender crop top hoodie and like, some kind of like, I think they were like mom jean type of thing. It's like a high-waisted jean. And it's like, I was like, this is a great kid. This is a kid that I want to see in high school. It's a part of the whole thing. And you never know if he's going to see him, but then right through the camera, I'm like, that's great. I got to see this guy. And so what's great is that people will see, I'm hoping that fans will see maybe themselves in there, so I'm trying to hit everything from a goth to a jock to a weirdo. It's like I want everybody to see themselves in the show, even if they're not a main character.
Right. That's awesome, because again, it goes back to the detailing. Every character in the show sort of represents something. And like, yeah, like even like you said, the background guys, like those, what they're wearing, their personalization, I think that's really cool to know. And one when I was noticing some of these background characters, especially in Cobra Kai, the dojo scenes, we got to see some of the coolest gear I think I've ever seen, the champion gear in particular.
Oh, thanks.
That was so cool. I mean, everything about it. So like, I heard you're pretty much the reason why you guys had that champion collab and how it came out. So like, just run me through how it all happened and just also like the designing process for that.
It was such an awesome opportunity. So like, Sony is our parent company, right? They're the studio behind us. And I got a call from them one day saying, "Hey, Champion wants to do a collaboration with the show, or wants to do something for the dojo. There's this storyline that was existing, and they thought they heard about it. They thought it was a really great match, and I agreed with them, and I said, like, yeah, that's awesome. And so we started this whole journey of like figuring out how to make this all fit the story, fit the characters, and fit the show, right? So when Silver comes in, he's got lots of money, he's got lots of connections, right? And he's the one who would be able to and he's got lots of taste too, you know. So he's got really good taste.
Yeah.
And so like trying to imagine my challenge was to work with Champion directly to like design basically four iconic looks that could then be put into this dojo that would be like what Terry Silver would have had made for when he brings and just redoes everything. And they were so great. They were so thrilling. They listened to all my ideas. They sent me some great things to start with. And then I got to do some like rearranging and like, oh, let's do it this way. Let's do it that way. Let's put this logo here. Let's put the snake. Let's put the Cobra Kai snake coming out of the Champion logo. Like, let's have it.
I love that.
I could not be more happy with how it came out, you know, and it's very, very thrilling. It's very, very thrilling.
We heard that there was going to, obviously because of the collab, we heard that this month there was going to be a lot of merch dropping. I don't know if you like are allowed to say or if you know, but like, will they be able to kind of merchandise the champion gear that we saw in the show? Because fans, honestly, as much as me as well, I'd love to be able to wear the fitness gear they're wearing in the gym, or, you know, owning the hoodies, because I loved the hoodies, the bottoms, like basically all of it. Like, are we going to be able to purchase that at some point?
I do know that there is a product line coming out from Champion. I think it's dropping this month. It might have just dropped. And it's gear not on the show, but gear for all three dojos. So you'll be able to get Champion gear for Eagle Fang, Miyagi-Do, and Cobra Kai, which is great because they're all worthy to have cool merch. I don't know exactly if and when because there's a lot of supply chain things going on in this world, as we all know. So that's part of the problem. TV moves really fast, and so we get it, we do it, we get it out there, and but you know, to have it available globally is a bigger challenge. So I'm hopeful that that's going to happen soon. I'm hopeful, but I can't say for 100% sure when.
Right. Okay. Well, that's good to know, because like, thanks for saying, because I just hope we do get the chance to kind of get what we see in the show, just because that stuff was phenomenal. And it's so
I really
cool,
want to see it out there too. I think it's really great. I when I first got it, it's one of those goosebump moments. I'll post the video on my Instagram later, but there was a moment like when I rolled the rack out, it had just fresh, hot off the presses out from Champion. It just landed in my costume department. I put samples of everyone on a rolling rack, and I took it out to set. And we're in the old Cobra Kai dojo, I think. No, I can't remember which dojo we were, but we're outside of Cobra Kai, and I rolled it up to show the writers and everybody, and they were like, "Wow, they're losing their mind!" It was so cool. It's just really satisfying to see, you know, a vision come to life and have it, and like that's it. And then to see that later, I don't think I dressed everybody in that for another week or so, and then to see that the whole team there and all that merch, it was so exciting. It was so exciting.
Yeah, it's so clean, and I know for a fact when we do hopefully we get the chance to you know, purchase all of that, I will be wearing like Champion Cobra Kai gear in every gym session I go to. Excellent. That hoodie will always be worn. I mean, the silver the hoodie that Silver wore was, I loved it, and the ones where you had like, you know, like no mercy written on the sleeve, and then you had the champion infused with the Cobra on the front.
There's a couple of details with that too. So sort of like when I was designing that with Champion, that, you know, I designed that hoodie. And then they sent me the rendering of it all, and I was looking at it, I was like, wait, something's wrong. The way that it was written on the sleeve was, I wanted to, like, when you throw a punch, I wanted you to see no mercy, and it was like written, it was the way they screened it was upside down. So it's like, and it looks good when it didn't matter if you're just standing there, but like the idea that it's karate gear, you're throwing a punch, it has to say no mercy. No fear. And also, that's all. It's all real Champion like sportswear gear. It's all based on their athletic attire. So it's not like fashion attire. So when it comes out, let's say we're going to say when, like, because we're really hopeful. We're going to say when it comes out, it's proper workout attire. So you can, like, if they did all the stunts in that, like all that stuff is real. It's not like, you know, we're not trying to hold it together with tape or we're not blowing out any crotches. I certainly learned about that. No one's going to blow out their crotch in that Champion wear.
Yeah, hopefully not. But like, it looks super comfy as well. And I can only imagine how, I'm sure everybody on set was like, "Oh my god, I want to take this home after like wearing it." And
I had to lock it down. Honestly, people like wore the skin, especially the hoodies.
Right? Yeah, because I know, you know, for a fact, someone would have been like, "All right,
exactly."
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely a lot of people would have been tempted. Like, so was Champion always, you know, in the moment going to happen? Was there any other brands that have like kind of reached out to Sony, like to work on specifically Cobra Kai, perhaps?
That's the only brand that has reached out directly to Sony to do something like officially with the show. I mean, all the other brands that you see are just reflective of the Southern California lifestyle. I do try to use things that you, I mean, if you're here and you're walking around, you see everybody's wearing Vans, everyone's wearing, you know, primitive skatewear, everyone's wearing, you know, Pac Sun stuff. It's like, and, you know, Santa Cruz, like there's a lot of brands that I just use because I'm fans of their look and it's appropriate for where we're at. And it's just because it's real. And if you want to send me Nike, please, happy to get some stuff. You know, but I mean, I use it regardless because it's like, it's the right thing. It is the right thing. I know that, I think that it wasn't officially through the show, but it was like one of those other things. But I think Vans did do a Cobra Kai collab that wasn't related to the show. Because obviously we can't have Cobra Kai Vans on the show because that doesn't make sense, you know?
Right. Yeah. I actually got a pair of these awesome Cobra Kai high tops. I can't remember the name of the brand, but they did like a white pair and a black pair. And honestly, cool. I have them so clean all the time because I don't want to get them dirty. You know how white is. It can easily get dirty, but every time I look at them, they're just already my favorite pair of shoes. And like owning a Cobra Kai pair of shoes is, I'll tell you what, it's definitely a privilege because you normally get to see that.
That's great.
It's awesome. I'll send you some photos later. It is really cool. So you obviously, apart from Cobra Kai, we want to ask you about like just the other films you worked on in the past, like, you know, Epic Movie, Disaster Movie, Meet the Spartans. I mean, I had some funny memories of those films. They were great. And then obviously you worked on one of my childhood favorites, Herbie Fully Loaded. You were obviously a costume designer on those. Like, what was it kind of like working on, first of all, those like spoof kind of films? Because you kind of get to work with all these like different characters, and sometimes you have a character that comes in and it's not even necessarily with story. It might just be for the sake of a funny cameo, or like you see in those spoof films, they try and add loads of different characters. Like the costume designing for all of that, how was that for you?
I mean, it was really fun and really challenging. I mean, in Meet the Spartans, for example, I made everything. I had a massive tailor shop. We shot that in New Orleans in this massive stage, and it was like you're not running to the local store to pick up something for one of those characters. We made everything to order, and it was really, really fun. It was really challenging to be able to get to do essentially a period piece like that. That's also a comedy, and it's much more. It's fun to work on, but treat it very seriously, like anything else. And then, it's like I said at one point, I think that I redesigned every major movie, from the middle 90s to the middle 2000s. It's like it just because there was in every Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory and in Epic Movie, every single movie. It was really fun, but also to really hit those things, to do the original designs justice, right? But then put a little tweak on there to like make it our own. It was really fun, and Herbie was a great time too. I mean, those 3 spoof movies were made by the same writer directors who were just a delight. I think we did those for 3 summers in a row, and it was our summer vacation where we just got to go. And it wasn't vacation, it was hard work, but it was like a new location. We shot one in New Orleans, one in Shreveport, and one here in LA. And it was just super fun to work with people that you like. And on Herbie is the same way. Like I had done a movie called Debs with Angela Robinson, who's the writer and director of that. And she did Herbie Fully Loaded. And she brought me onto that because we got along really well and we had so much fun working together. And it was just right. It was the right thing. And it was really, really satisfying to work with all those people. It was great. And also I got to make fire suits and I had like proper NASCAR things, and, like create all these teams. That helped inform the experience I learned doing that, creating all my race car teams, translated directly into making these gis for the competition, because it's the same sort of mentality of like, okay, where do the patches go? What are you trying to reflect? How to reflect the stripes on Herbie onto the uniforms, and how do I do that on the race suits? It's like it all comes together. All the skills kind of play together, and it's really fun.
Right. Is there anything directly from like creating the Herbie fire suits that kind of influenced the way you would make the gis? Obviously, one's karate tournament, one's NASCAR, but yeah, like you said, the patches. Is there anything directly that you went, okay, that definitely is going to happen with the tournament gis?
Well, the biggest thing is like they're real. I mean, at NASCAR, there are very specific rules. We shot at a real NASCAR track, and if you're going to be we had to have those be made by the fire suit, kind of like Sparko, and they're real, fully rated, and I just submitted my designs, originally designed, but like, they are made by the proper company. I wasn't sewing that up in my garage at all, because they have to have fire safety ratings. And the same thing with the competition gis. Those are all real gis that we altered and changed and embellished and whatever, but they have to be the real thing. I wasn't about to do like a silk gi like Karate Kid 3 on silver, because it's like you would never do that, right? It's right. Like they have to be real. So that's the biggest thing is like when you're doing something like that, don't fake it, because people will know, the fans will know. Like martial artists are fans of this show. They'll see a fake gi a mile away, right? The NASCAR fans are going to see a fake gi, even like down to things like medicals. If my brother is a nurse, he's an ICU nurse, and every time I have a medical character, I have a doctor, a nurse, a setup. When Miguel is in his halo, right, when he after he was badly injured, I talked to my brother, said, okay, Eric, can we do this? Which way should the gown go on? I had one moment where because of my brother giving me all this medical tutorial to get it right, because it pulls people out of it. Sidebar to that whole story. Right. What I don't want to do is I don't want to pull anybody out of the story, right? So if you're a medical professional and you see a nurse with their stethoscopes in their ear while they're just walking around, they're going to like, who is that guy? No, you never did. It's all we worn around the neck, right? Then that pulls you out of the moment, and you stop watching the show. You're nitpicking, right? You're looking at something that's wrong. So I never want to do that, whether it's anything that's professional. Like good example too was like the flashbacks to Vietnam. Like there's a costume rental house here in Los Angeles that we had original Vietnamese Army uniforms sent us, and period correct American Army uniforms, because they had to be right. They had to be authentic, because people are still alive from that period, or people are like, they're military specialists. Anybody that has this, I might not know, you might not know if you're just glancing at it, but those people that are seeing it that do know, it's going to pull them out of it. And I never want to. I work really hard not to make those mistakes.
Right. Yeah. Like going back to detailing, like it's very important to stay consistent. And like people like myself and other fans out there, they will like definitely notice these things. And obviously you want to have that sense of realism and consistency throughout the show to get these things on point. And it just, I appreciate the show even more for taking all these little things. And especially with Frank, when you were telling me about the intricacies, like with the geese, like that little thing, like the message with the color inside, like it just makes you appreciate, you know, more of what you guys do. So it's just, yeah, it really is really cool when you go to this length, because at the end of the day, I know it's your job, you're being a professional, but like you go the extra mile to make sure these things are, you know, tip top. And I'm sure that's always what you hope to do, is just kind of get things exactly how they kind of should be if it was, you know, Cobra Kai was real, right?
Yeah, totally. I mean, that's really how we approach it. Is like I like to approach everything based in reality on shows like this, because it's just like that's got to be, it's just got to be authentic. It's just, I mean, it's just like that's how I like to approach it. I think it's great.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll get to some, before we round this off, we'll get to a few fan questions, because I actually see some good ones in the chat. I think someone asked specifically about what was it like designing the Terry Silver costumes, because obviously he was coming back into the fray with season 4. We're really getting to know him in a different way. So trying to reflect that, how was that challenge for you?
It was great because I got to spend some money. You know, it was. I mean, he's rich, you know, and it's also it's again nailing the region, nailing the character, right? So like when we first meet him, he's got this new life of, you know, Zen and vegan what were they, vegan tofu skewers, you know. He's got this whole new world in Malibu. So it's like I wanted to reflect what the life in Malibu could be like, or is like, for someone who's like that, who's very wealthy, he drives a Ferrari, like, you know, all this stuff. It's like it's he lives in a mansion. It's crazy. But the thing, it's putting all the little details in there. It's like for him, I pulled some things from the original movie that I wanted to be updated for now. So it's you don't see it very often, but even though he's you know, he's got this new spiritual side. So he's wearing like tiger eye bracelets and silver and leather bracelets, but he also has like a sapphire pinky ring on that calls back to the sapphire pinky ring that he wore in the original movie, which you see very clearly when he's talking on that giant brick of the cell phone. And then, you know, the necklace that he wears is emblematic of his, you know, this Korean style of karate that Cobra Kai is based on. And it's all these little things of like what would this person wear, but also what would the character wear? Like this person is from Malibu, he's rich, he has a certain baseline. You know, we show about very fancy shoes that he kicked off, you know, when he's fighting in the dojo the first time. And then we also took him on an elevation, or we transitioned him from these light whites, neutral colors when he's like freshly in Malibu. As he gets deeper into Cobra Kai again, his clothes get darker and blacker and darker and darker and darker. So by the very end of the season, we see him like he's all in black again. He's gone pure evil, you know. And that was a fun thing to do. 1, spend money, and 2, take him on a visual journey through his clothes.
Yeah, definitely. Because I loved it when we go towards the end of the season. You kind of feel he's not only becoming like that version of the Silver we saw in the Karate Kid 3, but when he tells Kreese about, he's shedding his weakness, you know, what he's wearing there really symbolized like that sense of style is coming back, you know. And like the coat he's wearing and just his ponytail, the look, it really reminded me of that. And specifically when he saw Daniel again by the end of episode 4, wearing that long coat and just looking very much like that version. It was fun to see him as well in the start, seeing this different style, seeing his hair down, because obviously we always see it in the ponytail, so that was nice. And to see his hair is like kind of silver, it was kind of crazy to see that too.
What's funny is that, you know, we shoot everything out of order, right? We tend to shoot each episode entirely, but just as far as the shooting schedule goes, we shot all the Malibu stuff basically last. But so the first day that we saw Terry Silver come back to the Cobra Kai Karate Kid world was that scene where he and Kreese are walking into the backyard of the Miyagi dojo, and it was chilling. I mean, because we're all fans, and he is in full Terry Silver garb, right? And then with Kreese by his side and classic Kreese outfit, it was just like we all got shivers. We were all so stoked just to see that, to have him see him show up with his ponytail, walk onto that set. And it was also just so like jarring to see the two villains like in this sacred space of the Miyagi dojo. It was so fun for all of us. It was really, really great.
Right. I know you said you love to be nerdy and all that kind of stuff. So one other question I had, I didn't even get to it, was are you into like Marvel and DC and like comic books, that kind of stuff?
I mean, I'm technically more Marvel than DC,
Right.
because you know. But
I'm glad you said that.
I mean, I'm a fan. I don't collect, but I'm a fan. I was a big fan of the Watchmen as well. That was like
good.
I mean, the original comic novel was very pivotal in my early years. In my 20s was a very formative thing as far as both of my aesthetic and just like the life and culture of things, of what they could be.
Right. So if you could design any like character from the Marvel universe, like their like costume, like, you know, let's say specifically like if it was Captain America's kind of costume, like what he wears, or Tony Stark's Iron Man suit, like if you could design any character, which one would you choose?
I mean, all of them. I mean, everything. All those characters are so iconic that to be able to give that treatment, the subtleties that you can throw in there within the realm of what is established, right? Like, so the Iron Man suit, you can't go too far from what is, you know, how it's been established, but you can do a lot of things within that, you know. That's a thrill for any. I mean, honestly, it's just there's such great characters that, you know, to have fun with that would be, oh my God, it'd be incredible.
Right, like you said, being iconic, and you'd be nerding out, like looking at the costume. You're like, oh my God, I get to create this, I get to create that. Like it'd be really cool to do that. Another question from the fans is like, okay, because obviously you guys have wrapped up season 5. Although you can't really talk about it. Someone asked, out of all the 5 seasons, which was the most challenging one for costume designing?
What's the most challenging one? I think season 3. I think season 4 is my favorite season. Yeah, season 4 is my favorite season. The biggest challenge I think was probably season 3 with that big high school fight. There was a lot of. It wasn't so much challenging to design, but challenging to execute. Right. So there was a lot of moving, a lot of fights, a lot of characters, a lot of things that had to be done within that, but also, when you have these limitations as far as like you have to have stunt players or multiples or whatever, or things be wired, or people falling over railings and crashing to their potential doom, you have to be careful not to like let the action compromise the look or what you're trying to tell your story. I have to say that I've been so blessed with the stunt team on this show that are just like, you know, it's easy to get caught up in your own sort of like tunnel vision of your department, right? And oh, my department's more important than anybody else, or this, and I've run into that in the past with stunt teams where sort of like, well, it's got to be safe, and it's like, yes, it's got to be safe. Well, we got to do the action. Well, yes, you got to do the action, but it's also got to look like a character. It's got to do the stuff. The stunt team on the show is incredible. It's like Ken and Don are like just the best to work with, because they respect me as much as I respect them, and that just enhances the respect all the way around. So it's like when I have their stunt player walk into my fitting room and I put him in this outfit, it's like my first question is like, can you do the action in this? Throw a kick, like try to kick me in the head, throw a punch, like what do you got to do? You know the choreography, you know the fight sequence, you've already figured that out. Tell me if this is going to work, because again, if you can't do your job, then it's not going to be on the screen. I want really cool stunts on this show too. So make sure you can do it. But also I'll say like, do you really have to have a full back pad? Like, can you get away with this? Like, it's like okay, let's figure out if we have to, but it's like, can you make this work? Even though it may not be the easiest, can you make it work? Because this is the perfect thing for it. You know, can you make this jacket happen? Or what can I do to make this jacket that I want to have be the character's jacket? What do I have to do to make this work for the stunt? You know, so that, and I love, it's one of the things I love about working in film and television is the collaborative nature of everything, of like making it all go together. And so they make the stunt team makes it very easy on me, I think.
Yeah, that's definitely important to like the trust that you guys have in you designing costumes that the stunt guys can work with, and then obviously them respecting the designs you go for, because you go for them specifically for the story arcs as well, and you have to make sure that it's all like there. You can't have something that's more about practicality more than design. It's obviously like, yeah, a bit of Miyagi-Do teaching there, a bit of balance, you know, a little bit of balance for putting that together. So yeah, that was a great question. By Roundtable, I think it was. But I think that's it for all the questions. And Frank, thank you so much for your time. Really cool speaking to you about wow, your knowledge is amazing on costume designing, of course, and just all these little things.
Absolutely, my pleasure. This is really fun. I mean, I'm a fan of the show. I love getting to talk about it too. So thanks for having me on. That was great.
For sure, man. It's awesome to know all these little details and know that like you're a big nerd of it too. That's just really cool.
It's true.
So guys, thank you all for watching. Thank you for your questions as well. Please subscribe if you're new. Me and Frank are signing out. We'll see you guys next time on the channel.
Thanks, guys. See you later.